Hi, my name's Amy and I work in the Learning Center here at Cambrian. And today we're going to be talking about just tips for general test taking. So you studied really hard and now what? It's time for you to take the test. Just a little bit about the Learning Center before we begin. We have two types of tutoring. We have professional staff tutoring in all levels of math, chemistry, physics, biology, English, and study strategies. And then we also have peer tutoring, which is an upper level student. And they've already taken the course, gotten an A or B, and you're allowed up to 3 hours a week with them. You can visit us. We're in room 3024, right across from the library on the 3rd floor. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so you studied really hard. You've reviewed all the different study tips that we've talked about before. So what do you do the night before? So some of these things are going to be fairly common sense maybe, but it's just a good idea to review them, and maybe there's something here that you haven't thought of before. First thing that you need to do is eat really well. So your body needs to be able to fuel your brain. A lot of students want to cram the night before, pull all-nighters. You need to get enough sleep. Now that's going to vary depending on who you are. Some of us function really well on 6 hours of sleep. Some of us, need 8 to 9 hours of sleep, but you need to get some sleep. And set your alarm. One of the things that you don't want to be doing is running into the test late, 10, 15 minutes late, and make sure that you allow for a lot of travel time. If you're taking the bus or if you're driving, there might be accidents, that type of thing. By this time, the night before, you should know when and where your exam is. You can double check with some friends in the class. Maybe your teacher has posted things online. Just make sure that you know where and when your test is. You don't want to miss the test. And the night before, right before you go to bed, you should gather the materials you need. So, for example, if you know your test is going to be multiple choice and it's going to be written on a Scantron sheet, you're going to need a pencil versus a pen. This is pretty self-explanatory, but if you're writing a math test, you probably need a calculator. Okay, so you've gotten a good night's sleep. Now it's the morning of. You set your alarm, you wake up, you're nice and refreshed. One of the things that you need to do is you need to remain calm and think positively. At this point, you've pretty much done what you can to prepare for the test. One of my favorite quotes here, if you think you can or can't, you're probably right. So if you think positively, things are probably going to go fairly well for you. You should eat a light and nutritious breakfast. Again, healthy body, healthy mind. And you want to leave again with lots of time. And don't forget any of your important materials. If you need your student card, if you're writing in the testing center, those types of things. Okay, so now you've made it to the test, you've made it to the college, you know exactly where you're writing. With lots of time, you're about 20 to 30 minutes before your exam. You're going to want to find a quiet place to wait for the exam. Talking with others may confuse you. They're going to be talking about how much they didn't study, what they don't know, or maybe they've constructed a theory that's not right. So you're going to want to sit somewhere so you don't increase your test anxiety. You can use your iPod, you can put your earplugs in. And no cramming at this point. Again, right when you're waiting for your exam, you don't want to be trying to cram as much information in your brain as you can because you're going to just add to being a little bit anxious, that type of thing. You can review a couple things, but no cramming. Don't be frantically reviewing your notes right before the exam. Okay, so the teachers let you in the room. What do you do now? You go and you sit down, and you should breathe. A lot of students, even if they say they're not nervous, they might think they're nervous. So if you take a couple deep breaths in and just remain calm, again, remember, you've studied, you've worked as hard as you can, you're as prepared as you are ever going to be for this test sitting there right in front of you. Very first thing, I say this, sounds self-explanatory, but students forget this all the time. Make sure you write your name on the test and the Scantron sheet, if it's a Scantron. I bolded this for a purpose. Read through the instructions carefully. You're not going to want to go back when you get your test results and see that you missed marks because you just didn't read the instructions carefully, and you could have maybe gotten a couple other extra marks. Okay, so you've read the instructions. You know exactly what you're doing for the test. Before you answer any questions, before you see any of the material, if you know you're going to forget some information, you should write it down. Find the corner of the paper. If the teacher lets you have some scrap paper, You should write down any formulas, definitions that you've memorized you think you're going to forget, any information that, halfway through the test, you think, ooh, I'm going to forget that. Now you should read through the entire test. Again, I've bolded this here because it's very important. I've seen students spend most of their time on the first question when there's big questions on a test, and the easiest questions are maybe the last ones, so you want to read through the entire test so you know what you're getting into. Also, another good thing about reading through the entire test is you know how much time that you can allot to each question. Because if you have an essay question and a whole bunch of multiple choice questions, you can then determine which ones are harder, which ones you're going to need more time for. Okay, so now you're ready to write the test and to actually answer the questions. Now that you've read through the entire test, you should be able to pick out which questions that you're most confident with, and you should do those ones first. And again, remember to breathe. As you're going through the test, if you feel yourself getting a little bit anxious or overwhelmed, just take a second, take a deep breath, breathe, remember that you've studied hard, you've gone through all your notes, and that you know what you're doing. Again, positive reinforcement. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification. If you don't understand a question, just raise your hand, ask your instructor. The worst they can say is that they can't answer your question because it's too specific. But don't be afraid if you don't understand the meaning of a word or you don't understand how the question's being asked. You can ask your instructor. And now, again, there's different types of questions. You might have some multiple choice, short answer, essay questions, those types of things. So you might want to answer them differently. All right, so you've gone through, you've done all the questions. Now, before you hand in your test, you should leave enough time at the end to check it over. So that you should make sure that you don't leave any blank, especially in multiple choice questions. If you don't know what the answer is, you can guess. There is the answer there, so you shouldn't leave any answers blank on multiple choice tests. Okay, so now you've written the test, handed it in. A lot of students at this point think that the test is over. But if you take a little different approach to this, I want you to reflect on how you did. So after you walk out of the room, think about how you felt during the test, how you think you did during the test, and what you can improve on. Once you receive your grade back, this might be a week later, a couple weeks later, depending on how fast the instructor can get it marked, reflect on the amount of time and how you studied. And was this sufficient? Did you study too much or did you not study enough? And you're going to want to take a look at the questions that you got incorrect. And is there a trend? So do you struggle on true and false questions, short answer, definition? So you can improve upon those for next time, and you can really practice those types of questions. So that's it for now. Thank you very much. And if you need any more information, you can come and see us in the Learning Center. Again, on the 3rd floor, right across from the library. We're open Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30.